This 20-year-old is building airplanes that can fly for over a year.
We're making aircrafts that can replicate that flight maneuver, which basically means you have to kind of maneuver like a fighter jet.
The primary use case is surveillance.
Monitoring all of New York's coastline about every 10 minutes. With that, you can end everything from drug and human trafficking to preventing the next 2611. My name is Samay. I'm the founder of Alteon.
Samay never went to college. He started Alteon right out of high school. He was fully non-technical, didn't know how to build anything, so self-taught himself. Tell me, how did the idea come to you?
I've been building things since I was about maybe 14. So it started mostly when I got really bored in COVID. I come from a very Gujarati business family, so my dad used to sit on the couch every morning and trade futures. When COVID mein bore ho gaya, I was like, I'll do that. So I did that over the summer. And then market hours would clash with school hours, so I stopped doing that when online school started. And then I started selling t-shirts. After that, I worked on that for a little bit. I built this edtech thing, then this freelance marketplace thing, all of that, very consumery things on the side while I was in school. I realized I didn't want to spend the rest of my life working on a freelance marketplace. Wanted to do something really important with my life, and that's how hardware started. I'd never done any hardware or anything.
I think this is all self-taught. You taught yourself everything. Like what, how, where?
Building a lot. The first thing I built was a katana, a Japanese sword.
Yeah,
I ended up building that in my parents' terrace and really falling in love with doing hardcore engineering.
Oh wow.
Most of all of this learning has just come through building a lot. So maybe for the first year and a half or so of Alteon, it was mostly me just learning. And that involved just building a lot of RC airplanes, trying to get one to fly. Initially, the idea came from this Google X company called Makani. They were building these gigantic gliders that had wind turbines on them, and these gliders were connected to the ground with a tether to send the electricity that the wind turbines were generating back down. The original idea was batteries have come a really long way since 2005. What if we could replace that tether with batteries on the aircraft itself and store the electricity on board instead of having to transmit it down? So the way they would go about doing it was fairly different. But that was the initial way it got started, initial inspiration. Then over time figured out that hey, the way to actually make that work is this thing called dynamic soaring. These birds called albatrosses evolved to do. They fly for 800 to 1,000 kilometers a day without really ever having to flap their wings. Sometimes they can do it in their sleep. It's quite cool. We're making aircrafts that can replicate that flight maneuver.
What's the core problem you're solving?
Think about how you have the ATC for letting you know where an aircraft is taking off, where it's going to land, who it's carrying, what it's carrying, a buttload of information. But then you still have radar systems to be able to cross-verify missiles, drones, uncompliant aircrafts that have the potential to cause harm. Similarly, think about on land, you have cars that have GPS to self-report where they're at, but then you don't stop there. You have street cops and traffic cameras to cross-verify that, to be able to enforce that if someone is breaking a law. China goes pretty insane on this, but even Bangalore has more than 5 lakh street cameras. We've created a world where you can with a decent amount of fidelity, monitor what's happening on land, but not so much offshore. Offshore, you have this thing called AIS, where ships are supposed to self-report what they're doing, but that's really easy to lie with.
The primary use case is surveillance, and that also ocean surveillance.
Yes, and it becomes a lot more interesting because when any armed force started, what is the core purpose of an armed force? Any armed force. You want to be able to see what's happening in your area, whatever your jurisdiction is. You want to be able to detect what's not supposed to be happening, and then you want to either deter or neutralize that. Those are all things that required hundreds of human beings in the past. In today's world, those are all things you can probably do with a couple kgs of sensors. So then the problem statement shifts to how do I put a few kgs of sensors out at sea for months at a time at the cheapest cost possible? And with tech like this, we think you can do something like monitoring all of New York's coastline about every 10 minutes for about $50,000 a month. With that, you can end everything from drug and human trafficking to preventing the next 2611.
What's so cool about this according to you? Tell me.
There are 2 parts to get dynamic soaring really working. The first part is the hardware. The unique thing about the hardware is that it has to be super efficient and be able to hold very high loads at the same time. So you have something like a glider, which usually has a very high lift to drag ratio, which is way to measure aerodynamic efficiency. But those are fairly slow and nimble. To do dynamic soaring, you have to make a lot of quick turns, which basically means you have to kind of maneuver like a fighter jet. That's something really cool about this, that this can do that. That's one cool thing. This is about 3 meters wingspan, weighs about 2.5 kilograms. On any normal aircraft, you have drone motors that create thrust. On ours, they can also create electricity.
How long did it take for you to get one to fly?
Maybe a year?
Oh wow. 6 months mein you got something to fly. Nice. And let's say when you were starting up, did you fund it yourself? Like as a 17, 18-year-old, people would think like it's really hard to fundraise. Like how do you convince someone to give you money?
I got $3,000 from Emergent Ventures. There used to be this thing called the Atlas Fellowship. So I was a finalist in that. They give you $1,000. So that was like $4,000 that I started with.
So just like 4,000 at that point, like 3-4 lakhs.
Yeah.
For 4 lakhs you started this company.
We have limited time. It's about to rain.
Where's this place? Like, is there like a specific thing you test this out in?
Empty field. Dynamic soaring really only happens next to hills or offshore. So this, what we're about to see now, is just like a regular flight. Dynamic soaring ke liye, whenever we have to test that, we haven't gone offshore yet, we're starting to, but we usually go in the mountains.
Why? Because of the winds.
Yeah.
You need winds obviously to...
Yeah, and it forms like a specific shear layer over the ocean surface that allows you to do this. So sometimes we go to like Tamil Nadu, sometimes we go to Andhra, sometimes if we're lucky we can fly in Bangalore, depending on where the winds are fast.
And who does this wind tracking and all? You have someone in-house who like tracks all of this?
So far mostly it's just been us with like off-the-shelf weather prediction stuff. Like there's this thing called Windy that we use, but that's been proving to be a little too shitty, so we're building our own stuff in-house now. Lots of birds in the air.
Good or bad?
Bad. It started to rain, we should take off. I hope we did a pre-flight for this.
Yeah. No.
Thanks.
What? I did.
New Alteon, man.
We did.
Yeah.
It controlled है ना भाई? It's just doing whatever it feels like doing. अच्छा, okay. Because it seems like it's going crazy and it's going to crash somewhere.
Does this have fly-by-wire?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to fly it?
Right now. I'll go slow.
What does that mean? Okay. I hope I don't crash. You know, डर लग रहा है मुझे.
वीडियो ले लो फिर करना.
वैसे भी यार क्रैश नहीं करनी. महंगी पड़ जाएगी वीडियो.
They're saying it might rain quick. So I can feel it.
Yeah, it won't rain now.
Whoa.
It's about to land. It'll land at that tower.
Too old. There you go. Too good, man.
Done.
Wrap.